Hey everybody, this is Delta Kilo, March 8th, 2022, Tuesday, resuming Episode 3, The Injustice of Justice, Part 1, The Conversation. First, so it's been over a week now, about 8, 9, 10 days since I have put anything up. I want to thank all who are watching, following. I've gotten a little over 325 views now, having been up for just over 2 weeks regarding a discussion on unpopular, unique, and complex topics. So that's great. You know, some of the big channels, look, they'll get 1,000, 2, 3, 4,000 views in an hour, and some of the more popular videos, you see that they are looking at 4 or 5 million views. I'm never going to be able to touch that, but one of the things that I said early on is that I was targeting a specific audience. I'm here for a purpose. This is not for entertainment at all. I'd like to think that over the course of time there will be some lighter moments or things that I don't know if you'll laugh, but things that will just be compelling, thought-provoking, that will really leave you thinking about it after you're done watching and have gone on with the rest of your day. I hope that does happen, but just the same, it's going to be the case that for a while these episodes are going to be serious. The reason for the break in between episode 3 Prelude and right now, I'm at a point where I've had no choice but to do a lot of review and a lot of research, and I'm going to speak about that here just in a minute. I want to restate, reiterate, and reinforce my purpose for being here, for creating this channel, for making these videos, focusing on the 3 primary themes. You've heard me say this a number of times. I gave an initial introduction to it in episode 1, and then in episode 2 I broke it down. The discussion of politics and law, the injustice of justice, incarceration, David and Goliath, the Broward County, Maine jail, and advocacy, into the breach, out of the Hinnom Valley. Part of the title of this channel, and for good reason. I'm going to repeat these points at the beginning of my videos for any new viewers, and to be clear and consistent for those who are following and returning. For anyone who would like to hear the expanded breakdown explanation on these 3 main themes that I keep speaking about, please see episode number 2, Review, Explain, Expand. Part 1, a little bit of part 2. I am preparing and keeping notes for every episode. Got several different clipboards and a number of other administrative support items formally laid out, boxed, very, very neatly and orderly made available so that I can get my hands on them every single day, which is exactly what I'm doing. The intent then is to go back over the respective videos that I make, these episodes, with the notes, and to identify any items or mistakes that may not be clear, so that I can follow up and correct and clarify and resolve, so that nothing drags over from episode to episode. I want there to be more answers than questions. I want it all to flow. I want it to be easy for anyone who's investing the time in looking at all of this. I know how it is, and anything that I take the time to follow, even if I'm not there to be a critic, if I'm hoping to receive something from it, if it means something to me, and then all of a sudden things get a little bit sketchy, it's distracting. And the only distractions that I want here are things that leave you thinking, thought-provoking, compelling, provocative, things that stay with you, not just in the 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes after you're done watching a video or the final part of an episode, but over the course of days. That's this material. I've used this word serious. I think I'm saying that too much. The point is, and I went back, I addressed this earlier, in that this is not for entertainment. All of this being a true story, the story of my life, everything that I'm taking the time to review and go over and get in all manner of notes, and then get into a document and reordered and edited for the purpose of a script. It's significant enough, and carries enough weight that I did those things. I hope it will come off that way to you. I know if I'm investing, again, second time I'm using that word, my own time into looking at anybody else's product, I just want to know that they're doing the best that they can. I'm doing the best that I can. So, Regarding episode 3, the Prelude, I know that I had spoke of things beyond the initial destruction. Again, it's a short video, easy enough to review, and I see that it is catching some attention. The earliest things that had happened to me, the earliest events which took place, which culminated in my arrest and incarceration, all stemming from a conversation with one man, a private conversation with no witnesses, which never changed after the fact. Through all the contacts with police, the arrest, all the court proceedings, and which was presented by my private attorney in open court without objection or counterclaim, I've avoided talking about that, or not avoided, getting back into it, reliving it all. It's very difficult and unpleasant and exhausting. I have to, the destruction and the humiliation and the pain, I have to experience it all over again. Reading the criminal case file, which I've reviewed exhaustively every single day. It's 150 pages long, and it gives cause and justification for getting into the civil case as well as the risk protection order itself. You're looking at some of the worst things that anybody will ever say about you in your entire life. It causes a lot of self-reflection. It's unpleasant. And by virtue of my even being here and some of the things that I said early on, all of this was outrageous. All of everything that happened to me was outrageous. So I can't just look at it and pick out a couple of key points and think, all right, I'm going to sit down here and talk to all of you, because my purpose for being here is so much bigger. As explained again in episode 1 and then considerably more in episode 2. Something terrible happened to me. I'm here to expand all of it, and very, very clearly and in a linear chronological manner, with continuity and consistency from point to point to point. So all of the stories that I present to you, these true stories, they got to be ready. They got to be right. So it was that as much as I had this idea that I did want to, I wanted to talk about things beyond the initial destruction, the process of building back up, getting on your feet, how difficult that is. And the people who I meet downtown, who I can connect and identify with them by virtue of a great many of them having been incarcerated as well, them not choosing to be where they are, them wanting to do more, wishing to do more, wanting more out of life, many of them having stories, perhaps a perfectly normal, if not good life, prior to their own situations. I'm not skipping that. It's just time to begin telling my story. There'll be plenty of opportunities probably in addressing advocacy, both incarceration and advocacy, but advocacy because, again, that kind of starts with, one way or the other, whomever, whether it's me, my story, or people who I'm meeting and people whom I'm telling you about, things that I'm documenting. It's still, we're out now. They're out of jail, I'm out of jail, they're out of prison, I'm out of prison. But I got to start telling my story. I got to get into that right now. So I'm going to start speaking on the first point. The injustice of justice. Part 1. The conversation. Now, I need you to understand there's going to be 4 parts to episode 3. The conversation will be parts 1, 2, and 3, and then the closing will be parts 4. The intended presentation will have 24-hour breaks in between each. I want to make sure to shorten up the videos. I'm doing that on purpose because there's so much to say, and I recognize if I try and do this all in a 30-minute video, I may not be able to keep the viewership so early on. So I'm doing that on purpose. It's strategic, it's calculated, and I believe it's going to make it a lot easier to watch. Focus on 10 minutes at a shot, no more than 15. As I say, for episode 3, parts 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th part of closing. So I'll be getting into that first major theme, politics and law, intersection of politics and law. This was the preface for the video series of Injustice of Justice. Talking points: red flag laws, risk protection orders, constitutional violations, gun confiscation. Mentioned this in episode 2, taking your guns before they've proven that you are guilty of anything based on hearsay and supposition, weaponized application and utilization of law enforcement on behalf of carrying out and enforcing political policy. You may think, if you're into politics, you may think if you're a little bit older, well, that all sounds kind of flowery and melodramatic. The wording is like I said, very dramatic. But It's not supposed to be that way. It's not supposed to be that way. It's not supposed to be all that. It's not supposed to be that serious, that heavy, that intense. The law enforcement isn't supposed to scare you in your home. Laws shouldn't scare you. The police shouldn't scare you. Which goes to my next point, heavy-handed police tactics. Manipulation, antagonizing, intimidation, misleading, lying, badgering, bullying, coercion, threatening, various fear tactics, and generally just messing with you. Just screwing with you, trying to get you all spun up and wound up and disoriented and confused so that you become emotionally compromised and therefore more vulnerable to them trying to lead and bait you to whatever kind of conversation they want you to have so they can get what they want from you to suit whatever narrative they're trying to build. Man, did I go through it. The police would have you believe that no matter where they are, but speaking again, everything here, this is the Broward County, Florida. Broward County, Florida. Broward County, Florida. State of Florida is its own conversation. We'll get to that in bits and pieces over time. Prison being the greater thing there. And then advocacy, because a lot of the major, more successful advocacy organizations, they're focusing on Florida State Prison, on prisons in particular counties, and that's all over the state. I can't do that. I've been speaking with other people who I know. That goes back to the whole advocacy in downtown and perhaps connects with episode 3, Prelude, about Broward County and the Broward County main jail. Why isn't anybody talking about it? Why not? I could be wrong, but I don't think that I am. I've been digging around. I'm not finding anybody else doing what I'm doing. I mentioned that at another point. I'm not sure exactly where. I just remember the words as I'm saying them now. And I think it's important to say out loud, hey, look, I'm repeating myself because I don't want to come off as insincere. I don't want to pretend that I'm saying something for the first time if it's the second or third or fourth. I'm not here to insult anybody's intelligence. I want you to take me seriously. I want you to believe me. That's important. I care. Meaning I better make sure I've done as much of my own work, my homework, all of the legwork necessary to be fully prepared by the time that I sit down and create these videos, even in keeping them shorter. To a point, the Fort Lauderdale Police, Broward Sheriff's Office, they would have you believe that they are these premier law enforcement organizations. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll get to all of the greater fill-in and stuff. Right now, what I would tell you, thugs, gangsters, turds, trash, frauds, every one of them. You may think you know a good cop. You may think of someone who you know is a police officer. He's a good cop. She's a good cop. Not after a certain time they aren't. And because I understand how law is used, misused, and abused, it woke me up to the reality of what law enforcement is, not just in Broward County and the state of Florida, but all across the country. Reference George Floyd. We'll get on that. We'll touch into that, bits and pieces. And the final thing, in speaking of going into the talking points underneath of the injustice of justice, is permanently marking American citizens so that their rights are forever restricted and forfeited. I have a lot of notebooks that I have been going through. Over my left shoulder, your right, you see the criminal case, civil case, risk protection order, as well as the English Standard Version of the Holy Bible. I thoroughly recommend it. Over my right shoulder, your left, you see the notes from episodes 1 and 2. Something that's out of sight, but I'm going to bring it up a little bit down the ways, is a clear plastic tote that is full of, I think, another 13 or 14 manila envelopes, some of them having as many as 3 notebooks in each, thousands and thousands of words. It took me a long time of sitting in jail to put all the pieces together. The complexity, understanding the complexity of what the police did to me, the intricate nature of their twisting and distorting the facts so that they could make me fit into their narrative that they were fabricating and choreographing so that they could crush me into a tiny little box so that they could find a way, regardless of the facts and the truth, to make me be subject to their unjust risk protection order and keep me in jail for 2 years. As such, now we begin the discussion The Conversation with John Garrison, August 8th, 2019. Resuming in 24 hours. Today is March 8th, 2022, Tuesday. My name is Delta Kilo. This is Second Wind. Into the breach. Out of the Hinnom Valley. I will talk to you tomorrow.